All right, so thank you for joining me. What we're going to do is we're going to go through n8n and talk about creating workflows, what workflows are, what n8n is, and a intro to n8n. All right, so let's start. So what we see in front of us here is the console for n8n. As soon as you boot up n8n, you should see something similar to this. Of course, you won't have all of these workflows created when you first start, but it's a pretty intuitive dashboard. To create a new workflow, we just navigate to the top right corner and select Create Workflow. All right, so this is the first thing that we should see when we're creating a new workflow. What is a workflow? A workflow is this entity made up of several nodes that we could customize and create to accomplish a certain task. What is a node? A node, you can think of it as a sort of subroutine that is meant to accomplish a certain task. So if we go to the top right corner here on this plus sign, and let's say we wanted to run a Gmail or email finding subroutine, we select the Gmail node, and we could do things like add label to message, delete message, get message, send message, so on and so forth. Every workflow needs a trigger. There are different kinds of triggers, but for now, we're going to start off with a manual trigger. So we'll select the manual trigger, and this is what will populate. If we double click on the node, we could learn more about the node and see what it does. So if we go to the top right corner here, what we're going to do is we're going to give two values that we want to send through the entire workflow. And these two values are going to be model and status. For the model, give it Jaguar. And for status, we'll give it success, all capitalized. Top right corner, we'll hit the save button, and those values are now pinned. What this means is that the model and the status values are going to be passed throughout the entire workflow. Notice how this data that we're passing through the workflow is also formatted into a JSON. We're going to learn a little bit more about that and how it interprets JSONs overall, but that's something keen to notice for now. All right, so we'll click away, and we want to send this, the data that we created inside our trigger node to something, to do something. We're going to hit this plus sign, go to flow, and do a basic if logic. And this is the same as computer science if logic. If this, then do that. Notice on the left hemisphere here how we have the values from our previous node, model containing Jaguar, and status containing success. What we want to do is we want to check the value, I guess you could think of it as a variable, status, just drag and drop, contains or is equal to the value success. That's all this node is going to do. Outside, if that case is true, again, if status is equal to success, we go here. If it's not, if it's false, we go here. So if it is true, what we want to do is we want to send out an email. So we select the Gmail node. And when we selected the Gmail node, we select a send to node. So notice how under create credential connection or connect to, you have to attach your Gmail or other email credentials so that n8n has access to it and can send emails via that email. And we have to select the email that we're sending it to. So let's do this. We'll go to 5-minute email. In this case, I guess it's a 10-minute email. And we'll send it to this email right here. So we'll copy, send to that email. The subject would be, this is your n8n email. And the message, we just want a text saying the status is success. Hit the save button. And again, the reason that we're sending the status is success in the message body is because we're checking if status has success. All right, let's execute this workflow. Before we do so, we have to save and now execute the workflow. All right, everything seems to be fine. We have green arrows, which indicate to us that the workflow executed successfully. So in the if statement here, we were able to successfully pass model and status because status is indeed success. And here we have the label ID as sent, noting to us that, hey, we have sent the email successfully. Let's check our email. Here we have an email from our n8n account. And the subject is, this is your n8n email. The body reads, the status is success. And there's a little indicator in the bottom saying, hey, this email was sent automatically with n8n. All right, so in this simple node or workflow, we're sending an email if the status was success. If it wasn't, then we could add some more logic here and send another email saying, hey, the status is not successful, or anything else that we might want to give it. Really, here's where we'll have like a more sense of autonomy in creating these workflows. So let's do that. Again, we click on the plus sign. We type in Gmail. And we select simply just send message. All right. So again, this node will execute if the status is not successful, right? So we want to send it to the same email here, our temporary email. Again, we'll give it the subject of, this is an n8n email. We'll select that email typed as text, and the message will be, hey, this time the status was not success. Capitalize success as well. And save. So if we go back to our manual trigger node and we edit the status, we can give it anything that is not success. So unsuccessful, not, no. I guess we can give the value no. Save it. These are now the values that will be passed into our workflow. So before we execute it, we should run it and execute the workflow. All right. I don't know if you guys catch that, but when we executed the workflow, there's these GUI representations of which nodes are being executed. It's very fast, so you kind of have to catch that while you're executing it. But it went from here to this node. Why? Because the status is not equal to success. It is equal to no, and that's the value that we have given it. When it goes into this, we could see that we have a sent on label IDs, which mean if we go back to our email, this is an n8n email, we should see the body has, hey, this time the status was not success. Now you can see some of the implications or use cases for a workflow like this. All right, so the manual trigger is not the only kind of trigger that exists in n8n. As you guys could see some sort of a use case, I'm going to introduce 3 more triggers. So we go to the top right. Another trigger that we have in n8n is a schedule trigger. This allows us to execute the workflow in a certain time interval, either by seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, or custom. And it's as easy as dragging into the workflow. Similarly to the manual trigger, we can edit the data that goes into it, such as the model was Jaguar, and the status, which was success. We could also pin it, and this would execute within a time frame or time window. All right, moving on to the next trigger. That is a chat trigger. And a chat trigger works similarly. I guess you could think of it as using something like OpenAI's ChatGPT, or if we run it, we could say this is via the chat trigger. Send it, and the workflow executed already because we are checking if the chat input is equal to success. In this case, of course, this is not So it sent the email saying, hey, this is not success. But however, if it was success that we entered into the chat, we executed, you could see it went to true, which would send an email saying, hey, this is success. The problem with this method right here is that success would have to be typed it exactly as this, no misspelling, and no lowercase. Otherwise, it would be false. Later down in more sophisticated workflows, we could take care of this, and we could use something like a simple LLM to check it, or one of the provided options that n8n gives us to select a simple SML, small language model that could take care of this. But for now, that's beyond the scope of this course. It's more of introductory. All right. The next trigger is a webhook trigger. As you can see, this is an HTTP GET request, because the GET is what's going to, after we get that information, will trigger the workflow. However, you could create other webhooks that are not trigger webhooks, and that will allow you to delete, head, patch, post, put. So these are all the HTTP requests that we have options to. So we'll connect this into the workflow now. Double click it. And on the left hemisphere, we could listen for the test event. So if you want to test it, we have a test URL. Production URL happens once you save it and you've produced it, and it's going to be running automatically. However, for the test, it should be fine. For our demo purposes, we'll click on Listen to Test Event. We have our URL. Visit our URL, and bam, we have the values from our GET HTTP request. So these are the data that is going to be passed into our if. And notice how it's different from our other triggers. So chat input is no longer available, and it's saying it doesn't recognize it. Of course, it's because we're not using the chat trigger anymore. All right. So we've talked about 4 different triggers here: a schedule trigger, manual trigger, a chat trigger, and a webhook trigger. Let's see. We've also introduced a simple workflow. The next thing that I want to introduce, yes, is how n8n interprets these workflows. So we're going to delete this, this, and this. We're going to reattach the manual trigger, and we're going to save it. And we're going to call this something that we can remember it by. Let's call it hello dash world. Okay, so something interesting about n8n is that it interprets, let's see, yes. So it interprets these workflows as JSON files. And that could be advantageous to us because we could convert the workflows into JSON and vice versa. So let me show you how we convert this simple workflow that we created right here into a JSON. We'll go to the top right corner and we'll select the download button. And as you can see, we've downloaded hello world.json, which is in our downloads folder. We'll open that up. Open tilde downloads hello world.json, which is the JSON we just downloaded. Actually, we could use Xcode, but let's not do that. Let's do vim download hello world. As you can see here, we have the same title as we named our n8n workflow. We have a couple of nodes here. We have the email node. This is an email node. We also have some of the parameters, webhook ID, and we could also see some of the basic logic, such as in this if statement, the two outputs of its statement. You know, and if it's true, it sends an email, and if it's false, it sends an email again, but with different nodes. It's really important as well as we have an instance ID and a version ID, as well as a general ID for our workflow. So this is pretty neat from our perspective, because the fact that n8n interprets workflows as JSONs allows us to use AI to generate our workflows for us. And we're going to do an introduction of that. All right. So we're going to open Claude. Let's see. And we're going to ask Claude to generate a workflow for us, right? So let's say we wanted a workflow that appends to our Google spreadsheet. So we'll ask Claude, create a n8n workflow that will append values to our Google sheet. The values it would append are in the manual trigger and the we'll specify the rest later. However, what's important is that we want to be as descriptive as possible when asking AI to create this in a workflow. We'll hit enter, and it will start generating our workflow for us. All right. It seems like it's done generating that workflow. We'll download the JSON and we'll move it into our desktop. Okay, so now we could go to create new workflow. We'll go to the top right corner and we select the three buttons, and then we import from file. Under desktop, we have the n8n workflow we just created. Select that. And this is the workflow I created. It's a pretty basic workflow. Didn't want to make it too complicated, but all we have to do here is include our Google Credentials include the worksheet that we want. Your Google worksheet. So what we're going to do is we're going to do from list. We're going to select n8n loop over node. Select the sheet from list. Sheet 1. Map automatically. Cell format. Let's see. Let's do map each column. And again, we're going to put some values. Those values are just going to be model, which will contain the value Jaguar again, and status of the node should be success. Again, as the previous workflow, we're just passing in this data into our very, very simple workflow here. And again, we get those data that we've passed in from the previous node, model, and status. And we want to append Jaguar. Execute. But this output right here does tell me that it has appended it to my Google Sheet. All right. So we've talked about JSON. Talked about interpreting it. Okay. Another thing that I want to bring up when using AI to generate our n8n workflows is that this could cause some errors. Those errors include incorrect JSON format, improper node connections, improper passage of data between nodes, and creation of non-existing nodes. So a neat thing that I found that we could do to solve this is before we create or ask AI to create our n8n workflows, we just ask Claude the following, which is do not generate a solution until you have 95% confidence that you know what to build. Ask me follow-up questions until you have that confidence. And this would force AI to really think about the solution before it generates something like garbage. All right. So with about 30 minutes allocated in time, I want to now go over the hands-on workflow that we'll generate, which is our very own SoundCloud wrapper. So let's do that. All right, so the next thing that we're going to build here is the n8n music automation SoundCloud wrapper. And the only prerequisite, well, one of the prerequisites that we need is this Google Sheets. It just has 4 columns: index, status, title, prompt. The status is just whether that specific prompt should be done or if it's already completed. So we have a to do and completed. The title is the sort of title of the song that we're going to generate. And then the prompt is the prompt that we're going to send to our API to generate that particular song. Another prerequisite that we need is, let's see, places here. Is this API, Udio API. All you need to do is buy a couple of tokens to use the API. You can put as little as $1 to get it running. Right now, I have $10 on it, just in case for demo purposes. Okay, so let's build our SoundCloud wrapper n8n workflow. So we're already pretty familiar with this n8n console. What we'll do here is we'll go to the top right and create a new workflow. And the first node that we're going to introduce is the Google Sheets. And what we're going to do is we're going to read from the Google Sheet. So we want to select the Get Rows in Sheets option. So as soon as we do that, this is the general workflow that n8n has created for us. We click on the Google Sheet node. Again, if it's your first time connecting to Google Sheets, it's going to ask you for credentials. Unfortunately, I've already provided mine. It's going to ask us, hey, which file do we want to give this node access to? And the specific file is called n8n Music Automation 2. So we'll select that from list right here, and from list sheet 1 here. We'll add a filter, and the filter would be again from our status column. So we want to check if status is equal to do. We'll grab that and pass it on to the next node in the workflow. All right. I'm going to execute our workflow so far, and boom. To do Cybermonk create a song of a blend of ambient electronic music. Here we go. To do Cybermonk create a song in ambient electronic music in Tibetan throat singing. All right. So we're done with that part of the workflow. The next thing we have to do is we have to make an HTTP post request. In order to do that, we just introduce an HTTP node or an HTTP request node. And we could manually go in here, select post, or select the kind of everything that we need to make this HTTP request. But I'm not going to do that. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the documentation on Udio API. I'm going to select the post documentation. It gives us this curl command. And what's really cool is that n8n allows us to import our curl commands. You just go here to the import curl command, paste it, and boom. we have our post HTTP request. We just have to change a couple of things. I'm going to go back to my Udio API, go to my API key, copy the key, and paste it here. Of course, your key should be different from mine. The next thing is I'm going to feed it the prompt under this value here. And that will give us the prompt that the node should be generating. Notice how we could also customize it even further by giving it things like the model that we want to use. We can look into the documentation for best model or the particular model that we want to use. But for now, we're going to create something that's fairly simple. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to execute this step. And the post request is successful. All right. The next thing we want to do is we want to include a wait of, let's say, 3 minutes here. And the reason we want to include this wait of 3 minutes is because after we make our post request, the API is going to take some time for it to generate the song so that we could get that song from the API. And then after we wait the allocated time, we include another HTTP request. And let's have this running in the meantime. In the bottom left, you could see how long it's running. So right now it's been 6 minutes. And again, we've allocated 3 minutes for this node to run. So we click here. Again, I don't want to go in here and customize everything. I just select the import, go to the documentation, go under get, copy the curl command, paste here. And what's interesting is that it doesn't get the entire URL like it's supposed to, which is fine. We'll just paste the correct one and we'll finish up with that one. We'll go back into this HTTP request once this node has executed. So it's been about a minute right now. But after our get HTTP request, what we want to do is we want to send the URL to the image and URL to the song to a specific email. Again, as we've seen before, we'll select the Gmail node and we'll select the send a message node. And what we'd want to do is want to open 10-minute email just for privacy concerns. And we'll send the URL of the song and the URL of the image associated with the song to this email. And let me refresh it. And the subject would be, this is your AI generated song. Exclamation mark. Type, make it text. Here is the URL to the song. And see, fixed We'll wait, I guess 10 more seconds for this node to execute. Okay, it's executed. Here we have the work ID that we're supposed to introduce in this value as this value. So as we've done before with n8n, we could simply just drag and drop. It's really important right here to close this space. Otherwise, it won't get the URL. We'll execute this and we should get our song. Success. So here we have our audio URL, image URL, image log URL. We also get other information such as the created time, created ad, created time, timestamps, status, so it's been completed. If the API is still working on generating the song, then the status would be in process, and then the prompt that we sent to the API. Tags, duration, model, extra message, no fail message, and no error message. All right, so it looks like we've successfully got our URLs. So here in the body, as we were saying before, we will say here is the URL to the song. And here is the URL to the image associated with that song. And then drag and drop. We'll drag and drop the large image. All right. So our email is empty at the moment. But after we execute, we get label ID of sent, meaning the email has been sent successfully. All right, let's look at an email. See if it sent. It's going to take a second to populate here. Let me just check that if it's the correct email. 67. Okay. Okay, let's try running that one more time. We'll use this email instead. Okay, again, we get the value of sent which tells us that the email has been successfully sent. Okay, so it worked this time. I guess the previous time there might have been something at fault with this specific website and how the emails are sent. But here we go. We have the subject. This is your AI generated song. We have the image associated with the song. Let's open that and see what that looks like. Okay, that's a beautiful image of a mountain horizon. And then the song. Let's see our song. Let's play it. Okay, so that's enough of that. I want to go back to our workflow. This is a really rudimentary and simple workflow. It's not something that I would suggest you use for production. Between the post request and the get request, there could be a couple of errors that can happen. And in order to solve those potential errors, we'll just include certain flows where we'll check for the data. If the data, was passed successfully, maybe introduce an if node, and then if it's false, sort of try again here or wait a couple of minutes. And then if it's true, proceed. But that is something that I want you guys to think about. Based on the information that I've shared so far, you are more than better equipped to generate such um, a solution for this workflow. The last thing I want to mention is once you want to use your workflow, you'll select the active button here, which at this time it's not going to allow us because we're going to have to copy this there we go. Execute step. Yep. Save. Okay, we want to make this active. We'll make this 3 seconds just to show the post it. Okay. Saving. Okay, yeah, so the workflow has a node that requires a trigger. So if you want to make this and actually use this, you could include a time trigger, schedule trigger, and you could say, okay, I want this executed once a day. save it, connect this, save, and then activate it. Once it's active, what will happen is that this workflow will execute based on the time that you've made it execute. All right. That concludes our live demo of creating our own n8n SoundCloud wrapper. All right. Thank you.